All right, guys. Hi, hello. Welcome back. Okay, so what we're talking about today is that we're going to spend a little bit of time checking in with religion and government. And of course, we know religion in China is more or less going to be referring to philosophy in government. So we're going to just talk a little bit about some of the various ideas. Yesterday with the Han, we discussed Confucianism, but there's some other stuff to kind of touch base with. After that, we're going to talk about the Mongols. Oh, the Mongols. Such an interesting, again, part of world history. We're going to just talk about them very briefly. I wish I could spend a whole semester just talking about the Mongols. That is how fascinating and many layered they are. But we're just going to talk about it quickly because when it comes to China's overall history, the Mongols don't play that much larger of a part than any of our other dynasties. So that's what we're going to discuss. Once the notes are finished, there is an activity I kept in here, which I would normally do in class, and it's not required and it's not extra credit. It's just for those of you who are interested in learning more about the Mongols. And it's a short video. It's, again, crash course, which may or may not be something you find interesting. You don't have to do anything for it, but it's something that's out there, again, available for those looking for a little bit more information about the Mongols. After that, there's work to be completed. So, notebooks out. And we're going to talk a little bit about religion and government. So, over time, as we get into the more modern millennia, so past 1000 into that overall, we're going to start to see that the whole world starts to shrink. And what I mean by that is there's more interaction happening again every year throughout these different dynasties. The Can borders get a little bit closer to each other, the other parts of the world become curious and they start to trade more, and there's just more interaction. And what we're going to see is that allows for outside ideas to make their way into China. One of those outside ideas that makes its way into China is going to be Buddhism. So through the Silk Road, which is a trade route that we have talked about more than once in our discussions this semester, that trade connection, both by water and by land, is going to see the movement of people from India, where Buddhism started, into China through, again, merchants, through missionaries, again, things like that. When Buddhism reaches China, people are not going to be very receptive. They think it's too foreign. I mean, it's very different as far as an approach goes to Confucianism, which we know, starting with the Han, becomes the state philosophy, and that sort of lingers throughout the rest. What we're going to see here too is that the Buddhists that do come into China, they don't do a great job of keeping, I guess, good. A lot of the Buddhist monasteries where the monks would live and they would teach from became corrupt, and they would take advantage of the people around them. The dynasties themselves had to go through and like destroy temples to discourage their people from being taken advantage of. And like I said, it really goes against pretty much everything that Confucianism is about. Buddhism is very independently focused. It's a lot about looking inward and trying to kind of figure things out, not about working hard and doing what your family tells you to do. So Buddhism, it tries to come on in. Every time there is a regime change, every time a dynasty falls, there usually is some kind of shift that happens where Confucianism falls out of favor, and then other thoughts like Buddhism or Taoism, they kind of rise to the top. In the end, though, China always seems to revert back to Confucianism, and we see like a new version of it happen when Buddhism and Taoism start to make a real, I guess, threat to Confucianism. When you see that word neo tacked onto the front of anything, oftentimes they talk about like neoclassicalism and, again, neo Nazism. It is a thought that went away, and now this is the new version of it. So here, and Taoism and Buddhism are very much about not engaging, where Confucianism is a lot about like really getting in there. So Neo-Confucianism just reinforces the fact that the world is real. Okay, what is around us is important, and the only way to like reach fulfillment, to feel like you've done something, is by fully participating, by doing what you're supposed to, fulfilling that role, fulfilling your duties. Again, both the material and the spiritual worlds are acknowledged. The goal here is to again move to the spiritual, to heaven, and to convene with, and really they don't have a singular god, but this ultimate supreme, again, it's a lot of silliness, that in the end is about careful examination of moral principles that rule the universe. So again, the things that Confucius brought up about, this is how you live your life, these are the things that you're supposed to do, the relationships you're supposed to cultivate, if you do that, you'll be able to go to heaven. That's ultimately what Confucianism is, again, really broken down in the simplest way. So throughout all of this change that happens from dynasty to dynasty, religion keeps coming in and out of focus, religion and philosophy, as they are very similar to each other. Okay? So with that said, talk about the Mongols. So the fall of our last dynasty, the Song dynasty, happens because of the Mongols. We talked about them in the our third and our second units briefly, because they're a group that comes tearing across the continent of Asia, spreading from northern China in modern day Mongolia. That's where the name comes from. They were a pastoral people, again, organized into clans, pretty straightforward as far as early civilization goes. Each clan had a section of land that they would basically raise horses and sheep, various different kind of herd animals. Eventually, one amongst the various clans, one Mr. Genghis Khan, or Genghis Khan, which is another way I've heard it pronounced. He's going to rise up, and he decides that instead of having individual clans, that he is going to create one massive clan, which are the Mongols. What the Mongols end up doing is that under the leadership of Genghis Khan, they're going to go out and create the largest land empire in the history of the world, continuous land empire in the history of the world. So all the way from the eastern part of China, reaching way into the Middle East, and it's absolutely massive, bigger than Alexander the Great's, though Alexander the Great did make a massive overall empire. Bigger than the Romans, and when I say that, it's really, again, not about total land area, it's about continuous. So all of the land that Genghis Khan and his family conquer it's going to be massive, absolutely massive, a huge chunk of land. Like often, what happens is that Genghis Khan is going to rule the Mongols with an iron fist. He is going to be this formidable leader. When he dies, the empire itself gets divided up into pieces. Khanates is what they're referred to as, and then they're distributed to his various heirs. Genghis Khan had lots of heirs, but he's only going to, 4 of them are going to rise to the top. When it comes to the Mongols in China, okay, the Mongols first were interacting with the dynasties of China with the Tang. The Tang, though, had a secret weapon, or a weapon that allowed for them to be able to, again, resist, which is, again, the use of gunpowder. The Chinese are accredited with inventing gunpowder. Unfortunately, wasn't enough to stop the Mongols from taking over the entirety of Chinese, again, empire. The Song dynasty will fall to them. At first, China will just be absorbed into the big Mongol empire. After Genghis Khan dies, his heir, Kublai Khan, is going to be given China as his part of the empire to rule. This is where he establishes the 9th dynasty, the Yuan dynasty, right? So the descendants of Kublai Khan are going to create the Yuan dynasty, which will rule over China until 1368. Under the Yuan dynasty. We're going to see that they're going to change where the capital is. Okay, so they're going to move the capital to Khanbalik, which of course is Mongolian. Today it's Beijing. All right, they'll continue to kind of push the boundaries of what is China in this moment in time. So changing where again the territory lies. When Kublai Khan is given this part of the again larger empire and establishes his Yuan dynasty over China, he's going to adapt to the Chinese system instead of reinventing or trying to force the Chinese to be more Mongolian. He's going to take the system that already existed from the Song dynasty, and he's just going to put Mongolian leaders into the powerful positions. For the most part, the people of China were fine with this. I mean, they under Kublai Khan, under the Yuan dynasty, things settled down. They didn't have to worry about northern invaders because they'd already come. So it's very stable. It's a pretty prosperous time. Again, Kublai Khan lucks out because this is a very successful part of the world. It allows for him to ultimately take control and not have to worry too much about what's going to happen. But the Yuan dynasty, like every dynasty that we'll talk about with China, comes to an end. He spends his family, by the end of this, he's gone. His family in the Yuan dynasty, they're spending too much on foreign conquests. It becomes corrupt. There are internal conflicts between who's in charge and who's not in charge, and all those various things. And this is going to lose them the mandate of heaven, and a new group is going to come over and take control. Again, that's it for official notes. Like I said, I kept this activity in here. You don't have to do this. Remember that this is just an extra, something that if you are looking for more information about the Mongols, because like I've said, they're very interesting. They do things in a very unique way in history when a lot of what we talk about is very similar and there's a lot of repetition. The Mongols kind of throw the script out and they do what they want. So the video itself is not very long. It's like 10 to 11 minutes maybe. And it's just something to add some more detail. It's crash course, so it's John Green, and it's, like I said, just kind of interesting. He talks about it in an interesting way. It's not extra credit. It's not required. It's just there for those of you who are looking for extra info, right? If you decide not to watch it, that's fine. Again, what you have to work on, though, what is required to be working on is your study aid check, which is coming up tomorrow. You have to have at least 11 terms done. We'll, by the end of tomorrow, have more than that, but I need at least 11, which is through today. Again, I'll be checking in the classroom folders. You don't submit anything. Again, you're just working on the electronic template, and I'll be checking the edit history, dropping comments if it's necessary. The comments I leave all the time, be detailed. If you just put in the Han Dynasty that the years that they were in charge, or if you just put one thing, that's not enough. Remember, you're creating a final aid which is going to be able to use on your test, and it's so much easier to use that aid effectively if it's got all the information already. Put the work in now so it is easier at the end of the unit, right? The final one is due on the 22nd, which is a Friday, right? With that said and done, I hope you guys have a good day, and email me if you have any questions.